It's 5 o'clock.
For the record, Frank Friends is on a Zoom call.
Yeah, just keep the mic.
So let's bring the meeting to order. People sign up for public comment? No.
We didn't have a sign-in page because we're having issues with the thermostat or thermometer. So if anybody has wants to public speak, they're here and they'll probably raise their hand.
Anyone want to speak? Very kind to Mr. Neighbors, we're going to bring him up first. He has a great proposal.
For the minutes or what's possible.
Some neighbors donate a statue.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
No, 16 years ago, I donated a statue in front of the library. The little boy reading the book, and I don't know, I like how it was, so I thought, well, maybe it's time to do another one. So thank goodness the stock market been good to me the last 3 years. So I made a dent to the elevation. But anyway, this is a picture by Stanley Proctor, who's probably both from sculpture in Florida. He did the 3 height and coaching over at the University of Florida from the stadium. He did the Bobby Bowden section from the FSU stadium. He's done stuff all over the country. He's done Florida Sheriff's Association Memorial to Fallen Officers, the Florida Highway Patrol Memorial to Fallen Officers. I could go on and on. Anyway, pass that around when we look at it. I caution you, don't pick one out that you like better, because I won't get it for it. Those ones in there too expensive. Anyway, and then I guess the question is, one is you want to do it all, number 2 is where we go. And I think there are probably 3 places come to mind. Of course, this block here is the most prominent, although there's issues, with the food trucks and so forth, so I don't know if there's a safe place to do it, so I wouldn't get run over by a food truck. But this is for you all to decide anyway. The second possibility would be Central Park up by the front, parallel to Oakdale, or back by the pavilion.
No, you got closer.
And the third one, there's a grass circle at the end of 5th that then ends into Oakdale. So those are 3 locations that you all can talk about. I'll leave and let you talk about it. But, there may be other locations too, but I'd like to know where it's going to go before we close the deal. But anyway, I've talked to Stanley Proctor's wife, who handles his business affairs for him. She's extremely cooperative, and she's reserving it until we make up our minds and go ahead with it. It would be done in January, not this month or not next month, but I don't think that makes a whole lot of difference to the family, hopefully. It makes a difference to me from a tax standpoint. Anyway, I'll answer any questions if anybody has any questions. That's all I have to say about it. just look at the picture, see what you think. It's pretty much life size. I think it's 4.5 feet tall for the boy. And the dog, he tags it golden gate because it's a golden retriever. It's supposed to be a golden retriever. Anyway, questions?
Nor, if I can just correct for the record, just so everybody can hear online exactly what's going on, because we're still having issues with the microphone. What Mr. Neighbors is trying to do is he's willing to donate a statue. The statue is shown on the Zoom link where it shows the boy and the dog. He's willing to do it either in one of two ways. The way in which his accountant says he should do it, and the other way in which we would have to do a direct buy. The statue that he's looking at is, again, the one that's presented on the Zoom. I believe it's over $10,000.
It is.
Okay, so it's over $10,000. So his tax accountant would rather him donate the money to the town for the purpose of buying the statue. So then so in order he can get a tax credit, or he can go ahead and purchase it and then donate the statue to the town. So either way is fine with us, with the recommendation that the money that is allocated by Mr. Neighbors goes directly to the purchase of the statue. And if it's not going to be directed towards that by town council, then he gets the money back. So either way is fine.
And it should be worth that anymore. I mean, it's just simpler, from a record keeper's standpoint, to have a check written than to try to establish the value of the statue. That's why they can't. But I figure the purchase price is pretty good, guide to the value. So it could be done either way, whichever you all prefer.
If you have questions and concerns, can you just pull the mic closer to your mouth so we can hear you?
Do you know, I looked at it briefly, it's copper, right? The maintenance requirements.
It's bronze, and I've done no maintenance. The town has it on the one in front of the library for 16 years. Now, they recommend waxing it to keep the original glow shine, but I personally think they're better looking when they develop a patina. Anyway, so it would require no maintenance. Now, I take that back. There would need to be a slab board. They come with a base, but I think you can see in that picture, there's a slab underneath it, which I would recommend to fix the base onto a concrete slab. So, but I'd be glad to take it off the concrete slab.
Thank you, Mr. Neighbors. I think this is just beautiful. It will look wonderful.
Well, let me know. I know you got a lot to do tonight, so. I'm going to leave.
Thank you so much.
Do we have a motion to accept this gift from Mr. Neighbors?
I make a motion to accept the gift of the statue.
You have a second?
Second.
Vote.
Aye.
Frank, can you give me a thumbs up if you're in favor or against? The motion was to accept the gift. Thank you. Frank is an aye. What's that?
He was okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll get back to the regular agenda.
You gotta hit the back.
We have nothing on the pet test tonight, on the run on the lakes. The run on the lakes. So Orlando Health has a contract. Become the title sponsor next year. So I've been talking to them for a while, and they're pretty excited about it. So we have a contract with them for 2 years with a 2-year option. At the end of the 2 years. They'll be the title sponsor. So they have the contract, we're just waiting for them to sign it. They do have a COVID clause that they want to put in there, which essentially says that if we cancel the event due to COVID, they get their money back. If we turn it into a virtual event, then they get to come talk to us and sort of decide how it's going to be and whether or not they want to pay their full. which seems fair enough.
What's that?
10,000. They'll be great partners, they'll be wonderful partners for us. So I talked to Robert briefly about once the contract is signed, we want to do some kind of announcement, press release, council meeting, welcome them in. We'll see how they want to do it. They know a lot more about promotions. So you guys agree with that? Do we need a motion?
Yeah, the motion to accept the contract between the Town of Windermere and United Health, or not United Health, I'm sorry, Orlando Health, for the sponsorship for the 2-year term with 2-year extensions for the amount of $10,000.
Second.
Frank is an aye.
The second thing on the level of the lakes is that Orlando Health would like us to have it in October again next year. And I agree, I just think it's a lot safer, trying to schedule something like that in April, we just don't want to do it. I understand there's a police issue in October, but I think we'll just have to deal with. And then in 2022, hopefully we'll be out of this COVID mess, and that will not be a consideration. We can move it back to April.
So that's just,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's okay.
Who knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Right, and I'm not doing it for sure, right? It is so hard. It's just so hard to do, and at the end, we just had no idea.
And just so you know too, is that from a law enforcement perspective, there is a lot of events that go on in the fall, and we do count on, I think, at around about 30 officers, reserves from around the community to help with the race, to make sure it's safe. So we need to cheat to know the date and, number one, to make sure you're not conflicting with the Craft Beer Fest or any other event at the same time, but to make sure that we have enough officers on scene.
I'll get the calendar out. Go through it, I can always do it. Check cross off dates, and then we can let the chief know really early. So if you guys are in agreement with that. We don't need a motion for that here.
No, ma'am.
So we have shirts and we have a whole lot of toilets. Well, we had to order the medals back in the end of January because they come from China and they take months and months under the best of circumstances. So we had about 600 runners signed up, so we anticipated 1,000, so we ordered 1,000 medals. Well, then of course COVID came and, we postponed the race and we didn't market it anymore after that. So we ended up with 655 runners. A lot of people didn't come pick up their shirts and their medals, even though Doug graciously has been giving stuff out in his driveway for a month. So we have all these leftover medals and shirts, and we were thinking what we could do with them. One of our ideas is just to offer them to residents first. Everybody, you can put them outside of the town office, in that breezeway you have in between. And if people want T-shirts, they're welcome to them. Or, we can try to find somebody to take them. Last year, the church went to and they took all our leftover medals. There's a whole lot of little kids running around here for us. Run them on the lights medals on. But nobody's going anywhere this year. What do you guys think?
I think that I don't know how.
Please make sure that you're going to talk, just grab the mic, and then on the back of the mic, there's a button And then once it hits green, hopefully it'll stay on green. And so we can pick up everything that you're hearing. So there's no reverb anywhere else, because mine is the only audio that people can hear.
I just think if we could donate them to somebody, like even a normal shelter or something like that. Oh, yes, yeah, yes, that would be.
Okay. Anybody else have any ideas?
I think, like, no, I really want, that would be wonderful.
You know, I think it's just nice to give the shirts away to residents, to build support in the community for the race. I mean, some people don't know what's going on. And I had some neighbors asking about it, so I just think it's good.
You get that person and what's left.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was,
Those hanging is true.
We're driving through the driveway.
Okay, well, I'll get with Diane and Diane.
Next week about the shirts, and then we can put them out there for a week or so, whatever's left over.
Yeah.
Del, do you have a report on Halloween?
let's see, just want to first thank Robert. Thank you. It's a great idea. Yeah, I think you presented the meeting, so you deserve credit firstly for suggesting it. It was done in April, so thanks to Robert. Thanks to Chief Bachman, the mayor and his daughter participated. We originally had bags for 400 children. I wasn't personally there, but we went through 400 bags. And then they had to go get more candy, and I'm told that they gave as much candy away, so, 700, 800, that we did social distancing on Halloween, and it's great. It's had something, some feeling of Halloween, and it didn't disappear altogether. So appreciate, all the people that participated, and Chief Bachman especially.
Yeah, great. And we have a lot of really nice pictures. I think all the kids had good fun, and their parents had good fun.
I do want to thank the Ways Committee as well, because they did help put the bags together. And I think one of the reasons that we ran out so quick was the first neighborhoods, they were bombarding the kids with a lot more bags than there were kids. So we ran out pretty quickly, but it was well received by the kids that are out there, and I think the residents as well.
Well, I think we normally at Halloween, we have about 300 kids. And I think we weren't thinking that we did the little kids for Halloween, they have siblings at home. So, we probably needed, 1,000 bags of candy. But it worked out for us. Kids don't care. And they actually have more fun if you throw the candy out and you have to chase it and put it in bags. Bill, do you have anything on tennis?
I don't.
All right, everybody's here for a furlough, but let's just swing through Central Park first. We have this quote to put the new swings in. So that's from sports. There are same people that did the exercise equipment that we put in the Central Park last year. Yes. So what we're gonna do, because you can't have the handicap swing in the same day as the other swings. Right now, the swings that are 2 days, they're really old and beat up. So the idea is to remove those, replace them with a 3-day set. So we have 2 regular swings, 2 bucket swings for babies, and I think it's just 1 handicap swing in the day. And then we're also, the idea is that all of when you come into Central Park, there's a handicap entrance into the pavilion. And the plan is that on the other side of the pavilion, there's you can like 6 feet between that and the swing sets. You can't really.
Yeah, just make sure that you have a green light in the back.
So the idea is that we will put a pathway in between the concrete pavilion and the enclosed area where the swing sets are. We'll have a little border that will be made out of mulch, so that we have handicap access into the swing set, and then we can put the same kind of little walkway in between the swing set playground and the playground that has a little pickup truck, the fire truck in it. So, and then from the fire truck to the play set. So we can essentially link all the play areas via these sort of little mulch paths, so they're all accessible. It is, but the, ADA, right. So, it'll be fine. There's a lot of handicap access, everything, all the play areas in the park, and it's relatively accessible.
So the initial path is going to the south towards the park up there from the village. That's what you're talking about.
The initial path will go from the pavilion to the swing sets,
Okay.
and then from the swing sets to the fire truck, and then from the fire truck to the big play area.
Okay.
And so it'll all be linked together.
Okay.
So, and we, Scott and I talked about this before you left. We are scheduled to have our regular mulch for the parks next month or the month after. Every year we value the fall. The town, it's the town's maintenance, but it's scheduled. So it's already scheduled, so we can take the mulch out of this proposal. This is regular mulch. Which then brings it under $10,000, which is handy. So what do you guys think?
If I can do,
I love it, you already actually get this. This isn't something you don't have to actually.
Oh, this is a request from the next one.
Yeah, I quite a few questions we have.
I got one from home, but it was very nice lady who just moved in actually on my street, on my family's street. And she has a 5-year-old wheelchair. And he just wants to be able to swing. And it just broke my heart. I was like, yeah, we need to get this swing.
Nora, prior to a vote, if I can just do a quick synopsis. The intent is to go ahead and create a handicap accessible swing system. In order to do that, we need to buy a brand new swing system, which involves 3 different bays. The third one would be dedicated to an infant swing and a handicap swing, correct?
No, the first day would be 2 regular swings. The second day would be the 2 infant swings.
Okay.
Which we already have. The third day would be the handicap swing.
Okay. So the third bay would be a handicap swing, and then the 7,500 we have allocated to remulching. We'll use some of that for the pathways to get from the pavilion and some other areas, which reduces this cost underneath $10,000. So it is basically just creating a handicap swing accessible at Central Park. Okay. So I'm doing that for Frank's benefit because sometimes your mics come in and out, but I'm going to be setting up mics so they stay on the entire time next time. So is there a motion?
Doug, you want to start voting? Right?
Frank is an aye.
Right. So, Robert, should we call this tonight and get this rolling?
No, we'll take care of it. It's underneath my spending threshold, so I can go ahead and authorize it, and then I'll work with Travis in getting it done.
Landscaping plan attached, but we're getting a tree from the tree farm. We're not getting it today for Central Park. So, I met with Susan Carter last week, and we sort of walked the park, so they showing me what they were thinking about. I think their plan is going to be great. But they're writing it up and then they have to have three boards to approve it and then it's the cost. So I put it on here thinking we might have it today, but we don't.
Yes. The issue with that one is that what's proposed tonight is not necessarily what was proposed by Tree Board on what they actually wanted. So Tree Board's going to meet again and come up with their own plan and then propose it to you guys and then go from there. Because they didn't want to conflict with anything that you had planned. But what's in there right now is kind of off a little bit from what I think Tree Board approved.
You mean this landscaping proposal?
The Dobson's quote, yes.
And yeah, that's what Scott had gotten. As soon as I got it, I sent it back to him because for some reason they have like 100 bushes in there. And you could edge the entire park with that. I'm sure what they were thinking.
I think that was one of Scott's add-ons. That's not necessarily what Tree Board wanted.
Okay. So we'll just put it all on hold. We'll wait to get the board's plan.
Yes, right, Susan? Thumbs up? Yes.
All right. Frank, does Frank have something on the kayak?
Okay, what's the question?
Do you have anything on the kayak launch?
No, George and I have been pretty distracted. So the only thing we did was go take a look at the Windermere, the Windermere Park over by,
The rec center.
But yeah, looks like there's some good places to put it over there. That's where we would recommend putting it, the first one. And it would probably be good to have some sort of camouflage. So it's not a bunch of, brightly shiny objects to kind of make it blend into the, we're trying to come up with some more ideas on how to do that. So we really haven't made much progress.
Okay. Robert, one idea I had is the boathouses. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I know you had asked us for some ideas on the boathouses. And those boathouses would be a great place to use one or two of them as these kayak storage facilities.
Okay.
But then what we were thinking is that if each one stored like nine boats or something, we could rent them out to town residents for a year. We might have some kind of lottery. Because I would think it would be very popular. People would like to rent the place to store their kayak.
Yeah, the boathouses themselves are not actually owned by the tenant. The lease is for the access to those boathouses. But I say that because the people that currently lease out the boathouses have the opportunity 30 days after the lease expires in February to remove whatever items they want. So they can technically remove the entire boathouse if they wanted to. Is that likely? Probably not, because a lot of those are in kind of somewhat of a disrepair. But if you want to make a formal recommendation to town council, they are going to be discussing this in December on what their options are, whether to release them, meaning release them to the current leaseholders, or to create a new mechanism to where they would lease it out to others. And then I think HPB is also looking at ways in order to raise funds for them. And obviously you're looking at ways to raise funds for Parks and Recreation. So those are the myriad of ideas that are being spread, talked about and will be talked about with town council. But we want to make sure what town council knew about the expiration and some of the options that are being discussed on the table before they make an ultimate decision.
Okay, so if we wanted to make a recommendation, how exactly we want to do that?
Motion.
And then you'll take it to town council?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I think it's, yeah, I think it's really, we just need like,
Are they reviewing, okay,
They don't really have to make this discussion. But they're allowed to, you know, suggested that if there's an option other than it might be nice for them to say there's options. And we've got one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, and there's going to be some due diligence on that idea, but at least that might be.
Yeah, just hold it. Is that something we can just suggest during the discussions?
Yeah, we can.
Instead of make a motion?
Yeah, through common consent, we can say one option is to look at the possibility of leasing out one of those boathouses strictly for, you know, kayak users and whatnot to use it as a launch area. And that will be discussed at the next town council meeting, which is December 8th.
River Park. So we've had a lot of conversation over the past month, 2 months. We've had several two charrettes. We've listened to a lot of ideas from residents. And a couple of overarching thoughts. One is that I feel like most of the residents' comments about Fernwood Park are tied to Bird Island. And unfortunately, as Parks and Recreation and the Town of Windermere, we have no control over Bird Island. Something we can't do anything about that. So, but I do know that they are. It looks like they're progressing. We sent us that report.
Yeah, that was from Liz Johnson from Orange County EPD. They had a little bit of a setback, but it's just an ordinance change. So it's maybe 2 readings, which is maybe 2 months. So that 6-month timeline is now extended by another additional 2 months. But their intent is to create a swim area, which would push people back off of the island and then limit the amount of boats that can tether together. So hopefully, since they can't wade in the water, and they can't set up tents or just sit there and drink, that hopefully that would discourage them from using Bird Island as a party spot. Now, they still are working on a critical wildlife area as well. You know, they're both doing that concurrently. So once one is set, hopefully the other one will be set, you know, shortly thereafter. And that pretty much creates an extensive barrier on what you can and cannot do within that zone that's protecting that island. But again, it is a process that takes, you know, several months in order to come to fruition. Mr. Willard's here. He can talk about it more than I can, but you know, it's not an immediate fix, but it is a fix that we're working on with the county.
How far are you talking about moving it off?
The swim area, I forget the exact number, but it's beyond the point where they can wade in the water. Yeah. Please remember to move the mics closer to you, because again, if you're having a discussion, we need to catch it on this, because Frank is on the Zoom call as well.
I'm sorry, my phone was speaking. So does it look like that's going to happen, Robert? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, from creating a swim area, I think it's all based on the elected officials in the jurisdictions. I do think that will pass. Establishing a critical wildlife area, I think there's certain thresholds you have to meet. But again, with the swim area, you know, once that gets put into place, you'll actually see if that's going to deter people from using Butler or Bird Island as an actual party spot, or they may move to another location. It all depends on how people receive it.
All that's great news. For those of us that live by it, we see it's pretty much just a launching point for those who want to down
and we don't have any control over it as residents or as a town, but it is a problem that we have even. So if it's very much it'd be very helpful. And that's why when I look at the park, there's just some big unknowns with that area right now. The stormwater plan, still changing constantly. We don't know what that's going to look like. And what I saw today was looking bigger than I thought it might, which is fine. Whatever it needs to be down there is fine. It's just making plans, not knowing what that looks like yet. And like, it's kind of hard making plans without seeing it burn out and get some help. It is hard for me because I think it will. We're looking at all of these things calm down. That stormwater plan comes in, the parking is going to be very minimal. By the time we designate some officer and some emergency vehicle parking, that may help us in use.
Right. My feeling is the people who go to Bird Island are not going to be people who want to sit in the park and watch the sunset. People who want to go to Bird Island want to go to Bird Island because they want to party with their friends and drink the boat. Take out the water if you want. But yeah, we don't know.
We don't have
And
any.
that's what I think. But
Right. And you're just signing I know with that part of the moment. It's hard to see through it, to know what's a benefit, what might be a negative to it, what we can even fit in there. With what vehicles are going to be able to park down there. Now we're going to park on our street. And there's all kinds of pieces that are just really kind of fuzzy. I think maybe not having a facility, right, to know, is that still a dump? Is that still a urban yard? There's places. We have places for that.
right, I talked to Scott about that. She takes the park up, you can't go over. It's a park, it's not a dump.
I spent quite a bit of time talking to residents that don't live there, like you said, because those are the ones that go around there or they run there. And they all agree it could be tidier. It's a pretty messy park. But they all agree they really like low-key, they really like low impact. They know the mess that goes down there. They see the garbage piled up around every weekend, overflowing. So they see the issues with it too, and I don't think are wanting a lot done there because there are issues. If those issues were all gone, then I think we have a whole other perspective. We have a whole other thought, and we don't really know if that's going to happen. So if we go back 20 years, if we're not going to support this spot, I don't know. Is it going to take us back in time where it was a residential park? We don't know where that threshold is going to be. I'm just so unknown still for us.
Well, I just, after reading that email today with all of the change, kind of heard me off. I mean, I knew they were talking about it, but it kind of does change the direction. It's kind of hard to make a decision right today, where we're supposed to, can we clean the park up, or do we need to wait on the drainage? How that project happens. I mean, does it make sense for us to do? What if they're going in and clean it up? Sorry, guys. If we go in there and clean it up, I don't know if they're going to come in with the swales and everything that's on this email today. How can we really make the right decision, except for just cleaning it up at this point, because we don't know how it's going to look. And when are we going to vote on that and decide that project?
We meet with Kim Horn. The proposal they sent over today, it doesn't have any dimensions in it, so you can't see exactly how big they're talking about. But they have like really big swales and retention areas, and that is not written in stone. So,
Well, it looked like it was where the emergency parking.
right, you can't have, a 14-foot retention pond. I mean, we need that area for emergency parking, so, we have to meet with Kim Horn. And, I think what Kim Horn said was the proposal, what they would propose if there were no other considerations. But there are other considerations, so, we need to talk to them and see exactly. Because in our plans, we already had, and this is back in 2019, at-berm swales at Edinburgh Windermere Lake. So, I mean, we already knew that needed to be done, and, it would be in the plan. At gravel to driveway. So I think my feeling is that we can sort of break Fernwood into two pieces. One are the improvements we've been talking about, the berms, wells, cleaning out. We need to replant some trees, but there's some trees over there. We wanted to put a hedge along the Keglers fence. Fence and give the Keglers more privacy along that end of the park. We talked about coming in and making the roundabout area where people pull into their boats, bordering the middle piece because we're feeling crashing the trees all the time and drive through the park. So we wanted to sort of make sure that actually looks like a driveway. Maybe put gravel in it, which would help with the mud. Put the fence around on the right side when you come in the driveway. Add some additional parking that's there to keep people from driving through the park. There are people that drive there. Kids, they like to drive through the park and do donuts in the middle of it. Carry big holes in the park. So I think that's one thing that we can go ahead and work on and get the park clean, better looking, put some benches in it. And we can talk about the boardwalk as a secondary amenity. It's not necessarily connected to cleaning up the park and making it functional and looking a lot better and more useful.
I think breaking it up is probably wise, but I don't think we can do anything until this whole water plan is done, because even if we're talking, who knows what that's going to look like, and that's going to be one step of the road. But I think the gravel, the parking, all those pieces are great, but we can't make it. And I don't know what your firm's going to supplement, I'm sure.
For the design,
Can't we meet with him again?
Find out exactly what they have in.
yeah, and remember, don't get farther from the mic, get closer to the mic. The IPO that's going to be in front of Town Council on December 8th it's pretty much going to say pretty much everything that everybody's asked for. Is saying, we want to keep the dirt roads the exact same widths that they are. We want to correct the stormwater, and then it has add-alls of whether they're going to include potable water or not. And then they included actual Fernwood Park as part of this program as well. That's why you're seeing the concept that you see today. Now remember, when I say concept, it means concept. It's the forest. Everybody loves to say that 14 feet, 14 feet, 14 feet. That's the max. And they have to put the max there because if I come back and say, nope, sorry, I'm going to need 20 feet, then I'll probably have my head on a pike outside of Town Hall. So once you get into the actual design, that's when they can determine if it's actually going to be 14 feet or actually less. So what was proposed to you, again, is just a concept. And then once they get into the actual design phase, then we'll know exactly, okay, what is that impact going to be? Is it still going to be 14 feet? Or if the town council wants to accommodate the people that are adjacent to those swales, do they want to go ahead and underground a system? And knowing that they're going to have to pay more for construction and for maintenance. But there's two thresholds that Kimberly Horn will have to get through in order for final design to be approved. That's going to be at 45%, which is pretty much halfway done. But in the meantime, we'll continue to talk to the residents and council and get their thoughts and feelings of what they want that area to look like. Then when we get to the 45%, the town council will say, okay, keep going, we like it, or no, we want to see more changes before we send you off to go to the 100%. Then when we come back to the 100%, that's when we actually, if it's approved by town council, then we send it off to FEMA. If FEMA says, great, looks great, then we've accomplished a huge goal by saying, okay, well, we've designed something that meets our own standards, and FEMA is still going to pay for it with no strings attached. If FEMA says no, then we still have a design that we can use for a CIP to eventually fix the problem when we have money. So the design aspect is going to probably take about 6 months. In the IPO, it has 180 days for them to accomplish 100%. And as you guys know, it's going to take a lot of meetings to get to that 100%, if not all agreeable, but the majority agreed to whatever the design is. And again, we're going to be working with the feds too to see, okay, is that design going to meet their guidelines or not? And if they don't, then we're just going to be self-funding this. So it takes about 6 months for actually us to get that design. When you look at their conceptuals for Fernwood Park, I don't think the areas where they have the swales closest to the actual launch itself is going to change. That's where you see a lot of the runoff going.
That's fine. That's the only one I think that we were having an issue with is looking at the lake, the one on the left.
The retention pond?
So that's the way. No, to the left. If you're looking at it under the lake, you're standing at the boat launch looking at the lake. They've got a berm on the left-hand side. And that's the area we need for the emergency vehicle park. So that's the only one that really is an
But
issue.
that's probably because they want those.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in my opinion, so.
Understand too, depending upon the slopes of these swales, you can park in them. They're not wet retention areas. So
But is there any reason we can meet with Kenny or before all of this stuff happens and just sort of say, these were our plans for the park? How does that work with is that going to work with what you guys want to do?
yeah, the design is up to the town. We control every aspect of this design. So it's whatever the town council and the residents want. If the town council is okay with incorporating the boardwalk design into the stormwater plans, then they can do that. That's part of that pre-design to get to that 45% stage. If they're not, then, then we know what council's going to go with and what they're not going to go with.
So can we set up a meeting? Walk it and show them what we want to do.
Yes, we can. Scott's been in touch with Kimley Horn Associates for a long time now. We can go over with them exactly what you were talking about as far as the boardwalk next time that they're in town, which I think will be probably early next week.
So what you're talking about is separating a boardwalk piece to just gravel, logistic parking, shared parking. The split rail fence that we talked about, so we don't just park all over. Moments.
So we'll get more cleanup over at the little
So
bit.
it's getting it, seeing what it's actually gonna look like, it's gonna take some time, but we look has to, because that's our final point. We need to do down there. And then take those pieces and just do that. My thought would be that we shelf any of the other improvements until we have that done. We see what it looks like, we see if we're not in the down, we see if it's gonna be an asset to the residents or detriment to the residents.
Certainly, yeah, we could do the boardwalk as a separate piece, so we can go ahead and get the park cleaned up and looking there.
But none of that would probably happen until everything's done in stormwater. Because they're just gonna go mess it again. If they're going in and doing what I saw today, it's pointless to put gravel in, it's pointless to do that work.
Well,
Yeah.
but you figure it out.
Yeah, in that,
Right,
right,
is
is
there
there,
time we can start getting proposals? I'd like to get IPG to redraw the plans exactly the way we want them, so it can be presented to town council.
and that'll be after. I mean, can't modify, they have to have the basic plans done. And we'll get more first, or we can have
have to know where, yeah, exactly how big and where it can be. Once we put this stuff, and then we can get IDG to come in, revise the plan, so we have something really, really clean, go to town council, all residents can see exactly what we're talking about. Because now we have 3 or 4, we have 5 different plans that we've been working on for the past 2 years for that part, and we sort of modify things and add things and subtract things. But there's no one cohesive plan to hand to town council and say, you know, this is exactly what we want to do. And I think at this point, it's probably important to have that, because we have a lot of, I mean, I'm getting emails from people that, you know, I have an email from a lady who thought we were going to be renting out watercraft rides from the park. I'm like, no, that's not us. We don't do that. I think somebody is renting out watercraft rides from Berkeley, but it's certainly not us. We have no intention of ever doing anything like that.
Could I do a quick recap for the people that are, so the discussion that was had is that Parks and Recreation would separate this into 2 phases. Phase 1, just clean up the park. Town staff will work with Parks and Recreation on what they want to do, what they want to clean up. And then phase 2 is to wait until, number 1, see what happens on December 8th relative to the IPO for the Butler Basin project. And then if approved, work with Kimley Horn Associates to see how the boardwalk meshes with whatever design or plan they come up with. And then if there's amendments that need to be made to whatever boardwalk they can fit on there, then we would retain IDG again to revise the plans and then submit them for approval. So again, it's work with what we have now and then decide on the boardwalk later on. Okay.
Because kind of just threw a wrench in to see that email today. It's kind of hard to go forward and so that's going to probably take precedence of everything. So we can really see the way of the plan. I'd be all for it to start. We're not sure there's some things we can do already and that, you know, and then just put everything else kind of, and then have to be on final journey. It just seems like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most rational way, especially when you know that eventually the town council would hear this, that they're going to want something that synergizes. So otherwise,
Frank, any comments?
Frank, go ahead and mute Frank and then any comments?
Okay. I wasn't able to understand enough of that to comment.
Okay. What
I
they're
mean,
saying?
You mean comment on what you said on your summary? Well, that don't make sense to me. I agree with that.
Thank you. That's exactly what they were discussing. And so far, all the members of the Parks and Rec Committee have agreed to that consensus. We're just waiting on a motion. Yeah.
Motion? So I make a motion that we,
Oh, wait, sorry. Do we want to wait for the public or do you want, I mean, anybody from the public?
I'm always we're all fired up. I'm Paul Burden, 606 Upper Street. We all got fired up over the boardwalk. Also want to thank you guys for volunteering your time to get us all stirred up. But I think I see the rude bad behavior in Fernwood Park every day. And the last thing I want to see is something put there that will bring more beer drinkers. And that's all I got to say. You can figure out the rest. So I'm glad you're putting the boardwalk aside. Thank you.
Angela Ruby, 7 Golden Main Street. And just my comment, I really like this idea of waiting and seeing what needs to be done in terms of stormwater. We do see that going to the lake, and that is the concern I have, because I've been watching all the cleanup that I'm assuming the town has done along there. It means all the vegetation now is gone. And I wondered what the plan is for coming back now and replanting with the appropriate wetlands plants. I don't know what the plan was there, who you're consulting with on replanting. But I do feel strongly that needs to be done very quickly. Otherwise, everything now is not being filtered. And the wildlife that used to hang out all day have nowhere to hang out anymore. And so, question, yes, what is the plan?
Unfortunately, the park had been used as a dumping ground for years. So we literally, we have to bring in a dump truck to haul out the yard waste and all the junk, all the stuff that had been dumped in there. So, you know, the initial cleanup was not surgical. It was, bring in a dump truck and haul all this stuff out and let's see what we have to work with.
Okay, so who are you going to be consulting with on the replanting? Because that needs to be professional. You've got places like Biosphere Nursery who are phenomenal, and I would highly recommend, because that's what they do is wetlands restoration. Is that the plan? Is that in the budget? I'd like to see very definitely a good chunk of the budget go towards that. Is it? Is there anything budgeted towards that?
Just so we can go over the decorum again, everybody gets 3 minutes.
I'm sorry.
So if we do the back and forth, then we can be going here for 20 minutes. So all your questions at once and then, okay.
So if I could contact you afterwards.
Absolutely. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, the IPO that's going to be considered on December 8th includes a landscape architect to be on board as well. And as you see in some of the concepts, it shows a rain garden for the actual retention area. And then it shows some vegetated swales, which they're looking at constructing over at Fernwood Park.
I saw that. Plants they were using in there were probably not great choices, but they probably just pulled some, generic artwork and stuff.
Yeah, they will have experts that actually have degrees, and they will make sure that they do it right.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Jim Willard, my wife Caroline is here. We live at 228 West 7th Avenue for the last 37 years, right next to Fernwood Park. Paul Gurdon couldn't have been more eloquent. He got all fired up. I'm all fired up. So I'm going to give my 3 minutes worth of comment, whether it's directly on tonight's agenda or not. Because all my comments really are focused on the boardwalk. I do have to make a remark or two on some of the other issues about Fernwood. Notwithstanding clear disagreement about boardwalk at Fernwood Park, I also do respect and fully appreciate your mission of making sure the town parks are fully and appropriately improved for the benefit of town residents. And I think that's the mission. However, by that standard, I would like to maintain that Fernwood Park is fully improved specifically for the benefit of town residents. It's a boat ramp. For 20 years, I didn't even call it Fernwood Park. Everyone calls it the town boat ramp. It's been a boat ramp long before I moved there 37 years ago. And since that time, the town has added over 400 single-family homes through annexation. And the ramp has become busier and busier and busier. That's okay, because when you annex into Windermere, or if you live in Windermere, you don't have access to the Butler chain of lakes. One of the key benefits is the use of the Fernwood Park boat. It is busy. Anyone who here on 7th or 4th, weekends, holidays, it is extremely busy. It's only an 8.5 mile. There's barely room back in the lot of existing parking, let alone kind of parking demands that we put on the park with a improvement as large as affordable. My point is that it is a very substantial town benefit. It is fully improved. Let's let it keep being a boat ramp. In any type of decision, you got to do a cost benefit analysis, whether you're a Parks Committee
the town hall company. The costs associated with a boardwalk of this nature are not just the dollars, of which there's no budget anyway, but the utilization. You know, the benefit is utilization by some town residents. Flip side is that it will be a huge attraction for non-residents. Just like the Lake Down ramp, or the Lake Down gazebo and the areas of the problems they're having there over there, Fifth Avenue. You know, let's learn from that mistake. There's trash, there's refuse, there's vans and buses coming in all the time, talking to people who live up and down there. This would be 10 times worse for the park. We have overcrowding on the parking. We have traffic. We already have more and more cars and trucks and trailers coming back and down, up and down 7th Avenue.
1 minute.
We have more police calls. We have safety issues. You're combining pedestrian access for a pedestrian amenity right in the middle of a boat. There's going to be a problem there. We have no restrooms down there. I don't think there's any plans to put any there. You put an amenity to attract pedestrians, it's going to turn into an outdoor chain. It already is. We see it all the time. I haven't even talked about the environmental aspects. Bird Island is an issue. It is one of many. Whether the Bird Island problem in Audubon gets solved does not stop the myriad negative impacts from the boardwalk. And, you know, and only now are you hearing from the comments of the immediately adjoining neighbors that have to live with it every day. I think there's numerous substantial adverse consequences that far outweigh the perceived benefit of such a boardwalk. When we talk about the phase 1 and the phase 2, phase 1 items you're talking about, reestablishing the berm, cleaning up the wetlands, planting wetland species in there, you know, that's all great. You know, when that is done, you can design in a couple of more benches, maybe make them elevated. But that is the limit of what you really need for the passive enjoyment of the lake. And I think after the retention pond is expanded and the vegetative soils put in, there's simply no room.
And as everybody can attest, we're having again some mic issues, so if you could speak louder, that'd be great.
Good evening. I'm Bill Osborne. My area sitting back here with us next to the Wilderness. I wanted to tell you that I was on town council from 96 to 2002, and I was the mayor from 2002 to 2004, only to let you know that I understand what you're doing. You volunteer your time, you're not paid, and anytime there's change in Windermere, this is what you get. So I understand that, and I'll give you an example. When we're planning on some traffic issues here, we had 2 four-way stops. We lived at that long. We had this big investigation. How are we going to fix it? We had charrettes, we had meetings. We finally hired a traffic engineer who gave us an animation. Said, look how these traffic circles work. Traffic flows through. That was what solved the case for us. I believe you need to have professional land planning to come in here if you're going to consider this boardwalk, ask the emotional issues that Jim well summarized, and get an expert and then say, can you do this, at what cost, and at what cost to the environment? So your job is not just conceptual, what you want to think about, but I'd like you to consider and discuss when I'm done. Your item says that you're going to discuss the concerns of the neighbors. I'd like you to tell us who's in favor of this. Who have you talked to that wants this to happen, and how do you feel about it? What are your thoughts about our concerns? Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jim, you didn't nod, so he's there. I'm Troop 201 West 7. It's simple to me. You know, Bird Island, whether it's fixed or not fixed, is not going to stop people from wanting to launch there, whether they're going to Bird Island, whether they're going to Kings Point, wherever they're going. It's still public access for people to launch from there. Parking is going to increase up and down the street. If anything you do to attract more people to that destination is going to make any problems you have now exponentially greater. So it's not gonna really matter whether you do or don't do whatever boardwalk, anything you do. I said this to somebody the other day, I said, do you think that if you make improvements in that park, people are suddenly gonna say, let's stop going to Fernwood Park, because it's nicer now? Or do you think they're gonna say, let's go there, there's more access now? The kids over here at the beach are not going to Bird Island. And that's as big a problem as any place in Windermere. You put a boardwalk there, it would take me about 3 days to create a path from that boardwalk down to the beach and make a little sandy area. And once you create a sandy area at the beach, you can't stop anybody from pulling in there. The beach, all the beaches here, you can make sandy areas, and all you gotta do is walk around for a little while and knock them up around. It's a sandy beach after that. So anything you do down there is only gonna make whatever problems we have now, which are unbelievable. We've had fights down there every summer. It's fights. We've had overdoses. We've had kids getting hauled out of there. Ambulances every summer. The same thing happens. Speeding cars up and down the street, reckless drivers, noisy music, and now we're asking to put a boardwalk in there so we have more of this. It's not a solution. I don't know that it's even lawful to have a boat ramp mixed with the recreational area. I know it's not in New York. I don't know about Florida. We're looking at that too. But the more people you put down there in a high traffic, 400 new residents launching their boat and mixing with more recreation area, you're asking for a problem. We've already had 2 deaths at Bird Island from people getting ran over by boats, one jet ski, one boat. Anything you do down there, no matter how glamorous you might think it is only going to make whatever problem we have there now worse. I say make it a boat ramp only and forget the idea of this park and make it a boat ramp only.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Jessica Lee, 548 West 2nd Avenue. I'm a merchant mariner now. So speaking from experience as an active captain, I can tell you that most boat ramps you go to, you're not going to find a area for people to swim and hang out and all that. And like he said, it doesn't take long for a little beach to appear and post a whole lot and all that. But it's just common sense that if you have an area for people to hang out, that they're going to end up dropping other people off there to go to Bird Island. They're gonna, find their friends, all of that. And we live on the corner of 2nd and Vine. And we've got other people. Are you listening? Yes. Okay.
You speak up though.
We've had other people swim from the little pond area that we have at our house all the way to Bird Island. And that happens quite a bit, which is super dangerous. But that's the kind of thing that's going to continue to happen if there's more. So I think you guys just really need to take into consideration that there's so many residents who don't want this. And I think we're all curious too, like, how did this come about? Besides finding up the park, because that's a great idea. But how did this come about and what's the rush for it? Because I know there was a meeting a few months ago where there was these talks about having more meetings about it to make sure we all fully understood it. And I remember a comment saying, well, we have more meetings, it's not going to get this going, basically, like, I want to get this rushed through, somebody was mentioning something like that. So I think that we kind of just need to take into consideration the environment, the legalities of it, the safety of it, and the fact that most of us don't really want to change it. It just needs to be okay. So, that's it.
Anna Mae Const. I live at 632 Butler Street. I live behind the park. I'm not a lakefront owner. A boardwalk would benefit me. I could go out there and I could see the lakes and have more access. But the cost is just way too great to our way of life, to our safety as adjacent residents. The points made have been so good, I don't need to repeat them. What Angela said about getting someone in who's an expert in replanting the lagoon is very important. That's a sensitive wetland. Even removing things from that disturbs it. And it's very disturbed. I have pictures from spring, summer to now and that illustrate that. Paul Birdie, I think we all, you summed up how you feel. Jim Willard, I agree fully with help us kind of understand this. Tom, I couldn't say it better, with the trouble that we've had in the park and how, my property faces it, I look in the park. I'm probably the best steward of what's going on, especially since COVID's hit, because I sit there and I look at it. And the trouble that Tom has told you about was not overstated in the least. Bill Osborne, I would like you to answer the questions that Bill asked you, because I really don't understand. I came to my first Parks and Rec meeting about a year ago, a few months after I learned that this was a project. And I have written letters, I've attended those charrettes, I've been very active, and I'm your neighbor. And this is my home, my life, my property value. It's all of ours on our street. And
1 minute.
I want to know from you as my neighbors, and what are your thoughts on this? You're talking about doing a two-phase plan. I'm concerned about the second phase, and it seems like you still want to push through that. I want to hear from you. I don't think I've missed anybody, but I thank you for your attention to this, and thank you really for wanting to clean the park up and restore it to a viable residence. Thank you.
It's Ron Kegler, 636 Butler Street, my wife Kathy is here also, and didn't have much more to say than everybody else has said. But one thing I wanted to bring up was my wife and I are concerned about the safety of attracting people so close to our property. We already have issues with people coming across the Bird Island, running through our property, coming from the park, running through our property. And it's been going on for some time, been there 30 years. And it's an ongoing problem. And we have no way to fix it. We've been to all the meetings over time about what we can do about this and what we can do about the excessive noise. We know there's no answer to it. It's just something that if we build a bigger structure and have more people coming there, the problem's only going to get worse. So the way it is right now, certainly a better plan for me than to expand the park. Thank you.
I'm just going to say, I did want to comment to the, I met 5 or 6 residents that I picked on 4th Street, 2nd Avenue, Main Street, to get their thoughts on the park. To see, is this amenity something that they would want? And they all had something kind of interesting to share. Some of them, most of them thought it could look better, as we agreed. Most of them wanted it Florida natural. One of them, which shocked me, told me she saw a boat pull up into the cypress trees and somebody swim out to it, which was inconceivable to me. And I said, well, was the dock full? Why did they do that? And she said, I have no idea why they did that. So it seems really strange to me when there's a dock to launch off of, they would walk off of, but apparently it has happened. I asked her 3 times, she's like, no, I saw them get in the water from the marsh. I had no idea why they wanted to do that, to get on some exposure. So I think there are things that we don't know that people will do. And I hear, all of us saying it is risky. It is very unsettled right now. It's not even a time to do a lot of plan. I mean, personally, for me, I would love a few more benches. I would love to have somewhere to sit. I go down there every day, and if somebody's on the dock, just turn around and go back. So a couple benches would be awesome, but I think for now, we have to hold anyway, because the stormwater plan isn't done. We kind of see how that develops out. But it was interesting feedback from those that use it but don't live next to it.
Well, listening to all of this, I sort of wonder, Fernwood Park was deeded to the town 100 years ago this year as a park, not a boat ramp. The boat ramp is probably not what was supposed to be there. It's supposed to be a park. And listening to everybody, I mean, it seems to me that all of your issues are based around Bird Island and people on the dock and boat ramping and boats and well, they're back and forth.
And people hanging out at.
Just to clarify, decorum, public comment is over. Everybody's had their opportunity to speak now. It's up to the volunteers to go through their thoughts. I know Frank Prince does want to comment on the issue when ready. But right now, again, based on the quorum, public comment is over at this point, unless there is a vote by the board to open it back up.
I was just gonna say, I wonder if it would, I mean, maybe you should close the boat ramp now. Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't think so.
No, not just saying that you're there.
You know, we try to work with everybody and appreciate everybody's input. You know, to try to find a low impact, clearly there's a market for our residents that want to sit and enjoy the lake and not bring in a demographic that's been troubled, right? So, you know, the residents floated, you know, I think one was, you know, a 40-foot boardwalk. I think we're trying to find a way that whether we have to move the boardwalk, shorten the boardwalk, you know, have our residents enjoy the view of the lake in a low impact way. And many of the problems we have been discussed with the tennis courts, with the pavilions, with our decision making, we try to do that without encouraging our amenities to be overridden. So, you know, I'm optimistic that once we have our plan back or have some sense of what's happening, that we can find a compromise that our residents can enjoy and that they will be minimal enough that are not going to attract non-residents and that we can find a compromise that won't disturb the environment. In my opinion, in the Uplands area, having walked the area several times, that, you know, that will, you know, be a solution and we can have a nice amenity. One thing I will say, there was an idea that was floated that we increase the size of the dock, and that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Having, you know, if you directly increase the size of the amenity on the lake, which increasing the dock size is, you know, makes no sense, that's my opinion. And so something away from the lake that our residents can enjoy. Several residents have expressed that it'd be a very nice amenity for them. So that's my opinion, and optimistic we can have a compromise that the residents will enjoy.
Frank?
Okay, I got an echo here. At a previous meeting, maybe the last meeting, I presented a list of recommendations that I felt was a reasonable compromise with the adjacent residents. That will expand, you know, take Stephen Wither's idea of expanding the existing dock, which I think is a good idea no matter what we do. Provide some ability, some kind of a, you know, facilitate a viewing area, sitting viewing area, not necessarily a boardwalk, but something. Reestablish the berms that went away. I had a few other, I'm looking for my notes right now, but I think there's a compromise position. I was concerned from the beginning about the boardwalk. I would love the boardwalk for my own use. I would use it. I really think it's too much. Anyway, so in the minutes from the last meeting is my list. So I would like that list to be considered as we move forward with this.
Thanks, Frank. I think Most of the stuff on your list, stormwater control, parking, landscaping, lake debris. I mean, those things are all already on the list. And then the city Lakeview area, the occasional Lakeview area, I mean, that's all certainly stuff that would be in our discussion going forward. I agree with Doug. I think enlarging the dock is a crazy idea. I mean, it just allows more people and more boats to get to Fernwood, or to get to Rhode Island faster.
I mean, personally, I would love that, because you pull up and there's nowhere to go to boats to, but I would think it was compound the shuttling that's going on in Rhode Island right now. I have all this stuff to do with the dock, to shuttle over, and I was like, wait for 3 more people to come. I'm not sure the residents, but I would think that would be, been a great benefit to me, but way worse for the issue.
Plus, we're trying to make the park more beneficial to all the residents, not just people on the boats.
Well, yeah, and we had a great city platform where you can actually see the sunset. I mean, it's a great idea, because you don't see the sunset until you're out on the dock. So it's a great idea for residents. I would think it would make the issue even worse.
I don't think these people would have their head on the pike if they missed it.
Well, and really, you know, if you look at Lake Street Park, just directly what happened there, you know, allowing that direct access right on the lake, and it's just, to me, it's kind of, it's running directly right into the problem. I don't, the logic of that doesn't.
And can I ask you, there's any limits, do you think that would help or hurt? Do you think that's a good compromise, adding on to the dock? Or do you think it would just be one shot?
Again,
I'm sorry.
yeah. If you poll, then you open the door back up for public comment, but I think their concerns have been made. And I think Mr. Willard, even with some of his proposals that he's come up with a compromise, and based on his comments tonight, whether or not he wants it or not, I'm not sure.
All right, any more discussion? Bob is not here, he and his wife are.
Well, there was a motion that was about to be made prior to public comment being opened. So I believe for direction and for the benefit of the residents so they know, is there a motion to move forward with the phase 1 cleanup and then work with the residents and engineers on the potential of a compromise? Or is there a motion to clean up the park and then scrap the boardwalk idea?
I'd make a motion to work with Kimberly Horn and engineering to clean up the park. And that's all the motion I'd be willing to make right now, because I'd like to see us take care of that first and then see what we can come back to do, if anything. Second? Yes.
So, Robert, so we can add to that, come back if we want to add the phase 2 discussion, just to add into that motion, or separate.
You can do a separate motion to shelve the boardwalk until such time you're ready to discuss it again. But right now, the only motion on the floor that's been seconded is to clean up the park with the help of a landscape architect.
Aye.
Frank? Frank is an aye.
So we will proceed with that. I said Bob is not here. Robert, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, so to clarify, I know it's been talked about, but there's been no action taken by this board. Are we shelving the plans for now and working with, Kinley Horn and the stormwater issues and stuff like that? Because the reason why I say that, I don't want everybody having to come back week after week, month after month. I want to give them at least some peace of mind that, we're not going to touch this thing again for another 6 months. Because again, you guys are volunteering your time, they're volunteering their time as well. and it's very stressful upon everybody, you know, adjacent, non-adjacent, to know what's going on. So is there a motion or some sort of direction to shelve this for at least a certain period of time and then revisit it?
Let's see.
Put it on hold for 3 months. So look at it again.
Okay. So the motion is made to shelve or table activity on the planning of the boardwalk until such time that Kimberly Warren has a stormwater plan and design in place for the park.
We have a second. Vote.
You can say something.
Well, what I was trying to say is, you know, when you say when Kimberly Warren has a plan, then you start with the boardwalk, but it would be to incorporate your thoughts and your feelings towards the boardwalk within that plan itself. So
Absolutely. Right.
So that would be, so that motion was seconded, so you need to amend the motion to include either whatever comes first, whether, you know, Kimberly Warren Associates, if they're awarded the IPO 118, or come back and revisit it once the decision's been made as far as the stormwater for Fernwood Park. Does that make sense?
You're talking about like 100% complete.
No. If Kimberly Warren Associates is offered if they're awarded the IPO 118, which moves forward with the design of the Butler Basin, then you would work with Kimberly Warren Associates during that time to talk about the boardwalk. If that IPO is not awarded to Kimberly Warren Associates and they just say, we just want to scrap that plan altogether, then do you want to shelve it for like 6 months before you talk about it again, or 3 months, or a year? It all depends on what your feelings are as far as how long do you want to shelve this project without making a final decision on whether or not you want to move forward with it. So the motion right now is until Kimberly Warren Associates has a design, which I don't think it meets your intent.
I agree. Design isn't approved by council. There's many more steps after design.
Right, so I would need a vote of no, and then to do a new motion with what I've stated. Do you understand?
Okay.
Just so.
So now. Okay.
All right. Frank, is that a no?
Yep.
Thank you. All right. So you want to make the, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so make a motion to sell the boardwalk design until such time that potential stormwater plan and design can be incorporated into the final consideration at a future point.
Second? Tracy? Aye.
Frank is an aye. So the meeting on December 8th is going to be an important one by town council. That's when they'll discuss IPO 118, which does incorporate Fernwood Park design, stormwater design plans. And at that meeting too, it's pretty much a la carte to where if council just wants to focus on Fernwood, they can. Or if they want to focus on all of Butler, they can as well, so.
I'll reach out to you about meeting with next week.
Yeah.
Question for clarification, please. Trying to figure out exactly the motion you all just passed. Does that mean there will not be any further boardwalk painting done for the design plan for the drainage at Fernwood Park resulting from the 7th and Butler Basin and the road is daily. So you know where that retention pond may be and how big it's supposed to be and where the swells are gonna go. And then there'll be some type of, that may take 3 months, it may take 6 months. Will there be a notification to the residents if and when the boardwalk comes back up again? So we can't have to constantly keep looking at every agenda?
Yeah, well, just so I can, because a lot of people probably can't hear Mr. Willard. The statement is that the understanding of the motion is that the boardwalk will not proceed until there is a design or implementation of a design to correct the stormwater issues over there. And will the adjacent residents be notified of those discussions? The answer to that is yes. There's been a policy that's been established that any project that is approved by town council or in the process of approval by town council, I not only have to notify the people that are directly impacted, but everybody within 500 feet of that project.
Thank you.
Robert, do you have anything to report?
No, I'm tired.
With stuff on, do I need to reach out to Travis?
Travis and I. So we're adjourning at 6:32.
Oh, yeah, that's, yes. We have a motion to approve the minutes. Aye.
Frank, there's a motion to approve the minutes. Aye.
Thank you.
Are we officially adjourned?
We are adjourned.
All right, we are adjourned at 6:32 p.m.